History of the tablet. Largely summarized from Needham 1980 and Homeyard in 1957. The tablet probably first appeared in the West in editions of the pseudo-Aristotelian Secretum Secretorum, which was actually a translation of the Kitab Sirr al-Asar, a book of advice to kings, which was translated into Latin by Johannes Hispalensis circa 1140 and by Philip of Tripoli circa 1243. Other translations of the tablet may have been made during the same period by Plato of Tivoli and Hugh of Santalla, perhaps from different sources. The date of the Kitab Sirr al-Asar is uncertain, though circa 800 has been suggested, and it is not clear when the tablet became part of this work. Homeyard was the first to find another early Arabic version. Ruska found a 12th century recension claiming to have been dictated by Sergius of Nablus, in the Kitab Ustix ul-Uss al-Thani, second book of the Elements of Foundation, attributed to Jabir. Shortly after, Ruska found another version appended to the Kitab Sirr al-Khaliqa wa San at al-Tabi'a, Book of the Secret of Creation and the Art of Nature, which is also known as the Kitab Balanias al-Hakim fil-Ilal, Book of Balinas the Wise on the Causes. It has been proposed that this book may have been written as early as 650, and was definitely finished by the Caliphate of Al-Ma'mun, 813–33. Scholars have seen similarities between this book and the Syriac Book of Treasures written by Job of Odessa, 9th century, and more interestingly the Greek writings of the Bishop Nemesius of Emesa in Syria from the mid-4th century. However, though this suggests a possible Syriac source, none of these writings contain the tablet. Balinas is usually identified with Apollonius of Tyre, but there is little evidence to connect him with the Kitab Balabiyas, and even if there was, the story implies that Balinas found the tablet rather than wrote it, and the recent discoveries of the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi texts suggest that hiding texts in caves is not impossible, even if we did not have the pyramids before us. Ruska has suggested an origin further east, and Needham has proposed an origin in China. Homeyard, Davis and Anon all consider that this tablet may be one of the earliest of all alchemical works we have that survives. It should be remarked that apparently the Greeks and Egyptians used the term translated as emerald for emeralds, green granites, and perhaps green jasper. In medieval times, the emerald tablet of the Gothic kings of Spain, and the Sacro Catino, a dish said to have belonged to the Queen of Sheba, to have been used at the Last Supper, and to be made of emerald, were made of green glass. Singer and Steel, 488. From Jabir ibn Hayyan. Balinas mentions the engraving on the table in the hand of Hermes, which says 1. Truth, certainty, that in which there is no doubt. 2. That which is above is from that which is below, and that which is below is from that which is above, working the miracles of one. 3. As all things were from one. 4. Its father is the sun, and its mother the moon. 5. The earth carried it in her belly, and the wind nourished it in her belly. 7. As earth which shall become fire. 7a. Feed the earth from that which is subtle, with the greatest power. 8. It ascends from the earth to the heaven, and becomes ruler over that which is above, and that which is below. 14. And I have already explained the meaning of the whole of this in 2 of these books of mine. Homeyard 1923, 562. Another Arabic version, from the German of Ruska, translated by Anonymous. Another Arabic version, from the German of Ruska, translated by Anonymous. Here is that which the priest Sagittarius of Nablus has dictated concerning the entrance of Balinas into the hidden chamber. After my entrance into the chamber, where the talisman was set up, I came up to an old man sitting on a golden throne, who was holding an emerald tablet in one hand. And behold, the following, in Syriac, the primordial language, was written thereon. 1. Here is a true explanation, concerning which there can be no doubt. 2. It attests the above from the below, and the below from the above, the work of the miracle of the one. 3. And things have been from this primal substance through a single act. How wonderful is this work! It is the main principle of the world and is its maintainer. 4. Its father is the sun and its mother the moon. The 5. Wind has borne it in its body, and the earth has nourished it. 6. The father of talisman and the protector of miracles. 6a. Whose powers are perfect, and whose lights are confirmed. 7. A fire that becomes earth. 7a. Separate the earth from the fire, so you will attain the subtle as more inherent than the gross, with care and sagacity. 8. It rises from earth to heaven, so as to draw the lights of the heights to itself, and descends to the earth, thus within it are the forces of the above and the below. 9. Because the light of lights within it, thus does the darkness flee before it. 10. The force of forces, which overcomes every subtle thing and penetrates into everything gross. 11. The structure of the microcosm is in accordance with the structure of the macrocosm. 12. And accordingly proceed with the knowledgeable. 13. And to this aspired Hermes, who was threefold graced with wisdom. 14. And this is his last book, which he concealed in the chamber. Anon 1985, 24-5. 12th century Latin. When I entered into the cave, I received the tablet Sirr, which was inscribed, from between the hands of Hermes, in which I discovered these words. 1. True, without falsehood, certain, most certain. 2. What is above is like what is below, and what is below is like that which is above. To make the miracle of the one thing. 3. And as all things were made from contemplation of one, so all things were born from one adaptation. 4. Its father is the sun, its mother is the moon. 5. The wind carried it in its womb, the earth breastfed it. 6. It is the father of all works of wonder, telesmi, in the world. 6a. Its power is complete, integra. 7. If cast to, has been turned towards, versa furit, earth. 7a. It will separate earth from fire, the subtle from the gross. 8. With great capacity it ascends from earth to heaven. Again it descends to earth, and takes back the power of the above and the below. 9. Thus you will receive the glory of the distinctiveness of the world. All obscurity will flee from you. 10. This is the strongest strength of all strengths, for it overcomes all subtle things, and penetrates all solid things. 11a. Thus was the world created. 12. From this comes marvelous adaptations of which this is the procedure. 13. Therefore I am called Hermes, because I have 3 parts of the wisdom of the whole world. 14. And complete is what I had to say about the work of the sun, from the book of Gallieni Alphachemi. From Latin in Steele and Singer 1928, 492. Translation from Aurelium Occulti Philosophorum, Giorgio Beato. 1. This is true and remote from all cover of falsehood. 2. Whatever is below is similar to that which is above. Through this the marvels of the work of one thing are procured and perfected. 3. Also, as all things are made from one, by the consideration of one, so all things were made from this one, by conjunction. 4. The father of it is the sun, the mother the moon. 5. The wind bore it in the womb. Its nurse is the earth, the mother of all perfection. 6a. Its power is perfected. 7. If it is turned into earth. 7a. Separate the earth from the fire, the subtle and thin from the crude and coarse, prudently, with modesty and wisdom. 8. This ascends from the earth into the sky and again descends from the sky to the earth, and receives the power and efficacy of things above and of things below. 9. By this means you will acquire the glory of the whole world, and so you will drive away all shadows and blindness. 10. For this, its fortitude snatches the palm from all other fortitude and power. For it is able to penetrate and subdue everything subtle and everything is crude and hard. 11a. By this means the world was founded. 12. And hence the marvelous conjunctions of it and admirable effects, since this is the way by which these marvels may be brought about. 13. And because of this they have called me Hermes Trismegistus, since I have the 3 parts of the wisdom and philosophy of the whole universe. 14. My speech is finished which I have spoken concerning solar work, Davis 1926, 874. Translation of Isaac Newton circa 1680. 1. This is true without lying, certain and most true. 2. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to do ye miracles of one only thing. 3. And as all things have been and arose from one by the mediation of one, so all things have their birth from this one thing by adaptation. 4. The sun is its father, the moon its mother. 5. The wind hath carried it in its belly, the earth its source. 6. The father of all perfection in the whole world is here. 7. Its force or power is entire if it is converted into earth. 7a. Separate thou ye earth from ye fire, ye subtle from the gross sweetly with great industry. 8. It ascends from ye earth to ye heaven, and again it descends to ye earth, and receives the force of things superior and inferior. 9. By this means you shall have the glory of the whole world, and thereby all obscurity shall fly from you. 10. Its force is above all force. For it vanquishes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. 11a. So was ye world created. 12. From this are and do come admirable adaptations, whereof ye means, or process, is here in this. 13. Hence I am called Hermes Trismegistus, having the 3 parts of the philosophy of the whole world. 14. That which I have said of ye operation of ye sun is accomplished and ended. Dobbs 1988, 183-4. Further translators. Translation from Kriegsmann, allegedly from the Phoenician. From Sigismund Backstrom, allegedly translated from Chaldean. From Madame Blavatsky. From Falconelli, translated from the French by Sivking. From Idis Shah. And many more. Here is an example of what I mean. Hypothetical Chinese original. 1. True, true, with no room for doubt, certain, worthy of all trust. 2. See, the highest comes from the lowest, and the lowest from the highest, indeed a marvelous work of the Tao. 3. See how all things originated from it by a single process. 4. The father of it, the elixir, is the sun, Yan, its mother the moon, Yin. 5. The wind bore it in its belly, and the earth nourished it. 6. This is the father of wondrous works, changes and transformations, the guardian of mysteries. 6a. Perfect in its powers, the animator of lights. 7. This fire will be poured upon the earth. 7a. So separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, acting prudently and with art. 8. It ascends from the earth to the heavens, and orders the lights above, then descends again to the earth, and in it is the power of the highest and the lowest. 9. Thus when you have the light of lights, darkness will flee away from you. 10. With this power of powers, the elixir, you shall be able to get the mastery of every subtle thing, and be able to penetrate everything that is gross. 11a. In this way was the great world itself formed. 12. Hence thus and thus marvelous operations will be achieved. Slightly altered from Needham 1980, 371. On number 3, some Latin texts have meditation, contemplation, others mediation, mediation. Some texts have adaptation, by adaptation, some have adoption, by adoption. On number 6, telesmi is a Greek word, some texts have thelesmi. On number 6, 7 in some texts, its power is complete is a separate line. In the generally accepted reading, this runs into number 7 producing, its power is complete if versa furit to earth. Where possible this has been indicated by dividing these lines in 6, 6a, 7, and 7a. On number 7, 8 in some texts that wisdom, capacity, magno ingenio, is read as referring to number 7, and hence the operation of separation is to be carried out carefully. In other readings that wisdom is held to refer to number 8 and the product of the separation which thus ascends with wisdom. Needham quotes Ruska to the effect that sections 3, 12 and 14 are probably late additions, opposite. On number 1. Hortulanus, the most true son is procreated by art. And he says most true in the superlative degree because the sun generated by this art exceeds all natural sun in all of its properties, medicinal and otherwise, Davis modified by Linden. On number 2. Albertus Magnus, Hermes says, the powers of all things below originate in the stars and constellations of the heavens, and that all these powers are poured down into all things below by the circle called a law, which is, they said, the first circle of the constellations. This descent is noble when the materials receiving these powers are more like things above in their brightness and transparency, ignoble when the materials are confused and foul, so that the heavenly power is, as it were, oppressed. Therefore they say that this is the reason why precious stones more than anything else have wonderful powers, 60-61. While the 7 kinds of metals have their forms from the 7 planets of the lower spheres, 168. Hortulanus, the stone is divided into 2 principal parts by the magistry, into a superior part which ascends above and into an inferior part which remains below, fixed and clear. And these two parts moreover are concordant in their virtue, since the inferior part is earth which is called nurse and ferment, and the superior part is the spirit which quickens the whole stone and raises it up. Wherefore separation is made, and conjunction celebrated, many miracles are effected. Burckhardt, this refers to the reciprocal dependence of the active and the passive. Essential form cannot be manifested without passive materia. The efficacy of the spiritual power depends on the preparedness of the human container, and vice versa. Above and below are thus related to this one thing and complement one another in its regard. Shoemaker, there are corresponding planes in various levels of creation, hence it is safe to draw analogies between macrocosm and microcosm, the mineral kingdom and the human, animal and vegetable kingdoms, etc. Needham, the whole affirmation looks remarkably like the doctrine that extreme yang generates yin, and vice versa. On number 3. Hortulanus, our stone, which was created by God, was born and came forth from a confused mass, containing in itself all the elements, and hence our stone was born by this single miracle. Trithemius, is it not true that all things flow from one thing, from the goodness of the one, and that whatever is joined to unity cannot be diverse, but rather fructifies by means of the simplicity and adaptability of the one, what is born from unity? Is it not the ternary? Take note, unity is unmixed, the binary is compounded, and the ternary is reduced to the simplicity of unity. I, Trithemius, am not of three minds, but persist in a single integrated mind, taking pleasure in the ternary, which gives birth to a marvelous offspring, Bran. Burckhardt, the undivided, invisible light of the unconditioned one is refracted into multiplicity by the prism of the spirit. As the spirit contemplates the unity without full comprehension, it manifests the many-sided all, just as a lens transmits the light it receives as a bundle of rays. Shoemaker, as God is one, all created objects come from one thing, an undifferentiated primal matter. On number 4. Hortulanus, as one animal naturally generates more animals similar to itself, so the sun artificially generates sun by the power of multiplication of the stone. In this artificial generation it is necessary that the sun have a suitable receptacle, consonant with itself, for its sperm and its tincture, and this is the Luna of the philosophers. Redgrove, sun and moon, probably stand for spirit and matter respectively, not gold and silver. Burckhardt, sun, is the spirit, nous, while the moon is the soul, psyche. Shoemaker, if the moon is associated with water, as because of its moisture, as was usual, and the sun with fire, the prima materia is understood to have been generated by fire, born of water, brought down from the sky by wind, and nourished by earth. On number 5. Albertus Magnus, by this Hermes means the levitation, making lightweight, of the material, raising it to the properties of air. And why he says the wind carries the material, of the stone, in its belly is that, when the material is placed in an alembic, which is a vessel made like those in which rosewater is prepared, then by evaporation it is rendered subtle and is raised towards the properties of air. And there distills and issues from the mouth of the alembic a watery or oily liquor with all the powers of the elements. In metals the moisture is not separated from the dryness, but is dissolved in it, and being so dissolved, it moves about there as if it had been swallowed by the earth and was moving about in its bowels. And on this account Hermes said, the mother of metal is earth that carries it in her belly. Hortulanus, it is plain that wind is air, and air is life, and life is spirit. And thus it is necessary that the wind should bear the whole stone. However, our stone without the ferment of the earth will never come to the effect, which ferment is called food. Trithemius, the wind carries its seed in her belly. Maya, by the wind carried him in its belly. Hermes means, he, whose father is the sun, and whose mother is the moon, will be carried before he is born, by wind and vapor, just as a flying bird is carried by air. From the vapors of winds, which are nothing else but wind in motion, water proceeds, when condensed, and from that water, mixed with earth, all minerals and metals arise. The substance carried by the wind is, in chemical respect, the sulfur, which is carried in mercury. Lull says, the stone is the fire, carried in the belly of the air. In physical respect it is the unborn child that will soon be born. To be clearer, all mercury is composed of vapors, that is to say of water, which the earth raises along with it into the thin air, and of earth, which the air compels to return into watery earth or earthy water, as the elements contained within are each. Reduced to a watery condition, they either follow the volatile elements upward as in common mercury, or they stay below with the solid elements as in philosophical mercury and in the solid metals. So, mercury is the wind which receives the sulfur, as the unripe fruit from the mother's womb, or from the ashes of the burnt mother's body, and takes it to a place where it may ripen. Ripley says, our child shall be born in the air, that is the belly of the wind. De Jong 1969, 55, 7. Meyer, second comment, on, the earth is its nurse, food changes into the substance of the eater and is then assimilated. This harmony dominates the whole of nature, for the like enjoys the like. The same happens in the work and nature, just as is the growth of the child in the mother's womb. So also a father, a mother, and a nurse have been attributed to the philosophical child. It comes into being from the twofold seed and then grows as an embryo does. As a woman must moderate her diet to avoid miscarriage, in the same way one must set about philosophical work with moderation. The seeds also have to be united. Philosophers say that the one comes from the east and the other from the west and become one. What does this mean but combining in a retort, a moderate temperature and nourishment? One may wonder why the earth is referred to as the nurse of the philosophic child, since barrenness and dryness are the main properties of the element earth. The answer is that not the element, but the whole earth is meant. It is the nurse of heaven not because it resolves, washes and moistens the fetus, but because it coagulates, fastens and colors the latter and changes it into sap and blood. The earth contains a wonderful juice which changes the nature of the one who feeds on it, as Romulus is believed to have been changed by the wolf's milk into a bellicose individual. De Jong 1969, 63-5. Burkhardt, the wind which carries the spiritual germ in its body, is the vital breath. Vital breath is the substance of the realm between heaven and earth. It is also quicksilver which contains the germ of gold in a liquid state. The earth is the body, as an inward reality. On number 6. Burkhardt, the word talisman is derived from telesma. Talismans work by corresponding to their prototype, and by making a condensation, on the subtle plane, of a spiritual state. This explains the similarity between the talisman, as the bearer of an invisible influence, and the alchemical elixir, as the ferment of metallic transformation. On number 7. Hortulanus, the stone is perfect and complete if it is turned into earth, that is if the soul of the stone itself is turned into earth, namely of the stone, and is fixed so that the whole substance of the stone becomes one with its nurse, namely the earth, and the whole stone is converted to ferment. Trithemius, it is the seed from number 5 that must be cast upon the earth. Backstrom, Process, first distillation. Burckhardt, when the spirit is embodied, the volatile becomes fixed. Shoemaker, if the prime matter is to be used, it must be fixed into a substance capable of being handled. On #7a. Hermes, you will separate, that is, you will dissolve, because the solution is separation of parts. Burckhardt, the separation means the extraction of the soul from the body. Shoemaker, since the volatile principle is fire, or sometimes, stability is produced by its removal. Or, alternatively but less probably, the earth is impurity, the gross, and a purified fire, the subtle, is what is wanted. On number 8. Albertus Magnus, in intending to teach the operations of alchemy. Hermes says the stone ascends to heaven when by roasting and calcination it takes on the properties of fire, for alchemists mean by calcination the reduction of material to powder by burning and roasting. And the material again descends from heaven to earth when it takes on the properties of earth by inhumation, for inhumation revives and nourishes what was previously killed by calcination. Hermes, and now he deals with multiplication of the stone. Although our stone is divided in the first operation into 4 parts, there are really 2 principal parts: the ascending, non-fixed, and the earth or ferment. It is necessary to have a large quantity of this non-fixed part and to give it to the stone which has been made thoroughly clean from dirt, until the entire stone is borne above by the virtue of the spirit. Afterwards it is necessary to incinerate the same stone with the oil that was extracted in the first operation, which oil is called the water of the stone, roast or boil by sublimation until the entire stone descends and remains fixed and fluent. That which is corporeal is made spiritual by sublimation, and that which is spiritual is made corporeal by descension. Trithemius, when the ternary has at last returned to itself, it may, by an inner disposition and great delight, ascend from the earth to heaven, thereby receiving both superior and inferior power. Thus will it be made powerful and glorious in the clarity of unity, demonstrate its ability to bring forth every number, and put to flight all obscurity. Backstrom, last digestion. The azoth ascends from the earth, from the bottom of the glass, and redescends in veins and drops into the earth, and by this continual circulation the azoth is more and more subtilized, volatilizes soul and carries the volatilized solar atoms along with it, and thereby becomes a solar azoth, i.e. our third and genuine Sophic Mercury. The circulation must continue until it ceases of itself, and the earth has sucked it all in, when it becomes the black pitchy matter, the toad, the substances in the alchemical retort, and also the lower elements in the body of man, Hall, which denotes complete putrefaction or death of the compound. Reed suggests this section describes the use of a keratarches, in which metals are suspended and subject to the action of gases released from substances heated in the base, and from their condensation and circulation. Burckhardt, dissolution of consciousness from all formal coagulations is followed by the crystallization of the spirit, so that active and passive are perfectly united. Shoemaker, separate the volatile part of the substance by vaporization, but continue heating until the vapor reunites with the parent body, whereupon you will have obtained the stone. On number 9. Trithemius, when the ternary has returned to unity cleansed of all impurities, the mind understands without contradiction all the mysteries of the excellently arranged arcanum. Backstrom, the black matter becomes white and red. The red, having been carried to perfection, medicinally and for metals, is capable of supporting complete mental and physical health, and provides ample means, infinitum multiplicable, to be benevolent and charitable, without any diminution of our inexhaustible resources. Therefore well may it be called the glory of the whole world. Contemplation and study of the philosopher's stone, LP, elevates the mind to God. The philosophers say with great truth, that the LP either finds a good man or makes one. By invigorating the organs the soul makes use of for communicating with exterior objects, the soul must acquire greater powers, not only for conception but also for retention. If we pray and have faith, all obscurity must vanish, of course. Burckhardt, thus the light of the Spirit becomes constant, and ignorance, deception, uncertainty, doubt and foolishness will be removed from consciousness. On number 10. Trithemius, the philosopher's stone, is another name for that one thing, and is able to conquer every subtle thing and to penetrate every solid. This very noble virtue consists of maximal fortitude, touching everything with its desirable excellence. Backstrom, the LP does possess all the powers concealed in nature, not for destruction but for exaltation and regeneration of matter, in the three departments of nature. It refines the most subtle oxygen into its own fiery nature. The power increases, in a tenfold ratio, at every multiplication. So it can penetrate gold and silver, and fix mercury, crystals and glass fluxes. Burckhardt, alchemical fixation is nevertheless more inward. Through its union with the spirit, bodily consciousness itself becomes a fine and penetrating power. He quotes J. Beer, the body becomes a spirit and takes on fineness, lightness, extensibility, coloration. The spirit becomes a body and acquires the latter's resistance to fire, immobility and duration. From both bodies a light substance is born, which precisely takes up a middle position between the two extremes. Shoemaker, the product of the distillation and reunion, will dominate less solid substances, but because of its own subtlety it will penetrate and hence dominate other solid things less pure and quasi-spiritual than itself. On number 11. Burckhardt, the little world is created according to the prototype of the great world, when the human realizes their original nature is the image of God. Shoemaker, the alchemical operation is a paradigm of the creative process. We may note the sexual overtones of what has preceded. On number 12. Burckhardt, in the Arabic text this way is traversed by the sages. On number 13. Hortulanus, he here teaches in an occult manner the things from which the stone is made. The stone is called perfect because it has in itself the nature of minerals, of vegetables and of animals. For the stone is three and one, triple and single, having four natures, and three colors, namely black, white and red. It is also called the grain of corn because unless it shall have died, it remains itself alone. And if it shall have died, it bears much fruit when it is in conjunction. Newton, on account of this art Mercurius is called thrice greatest, having three parts of the philosophy of the whole world, since he signifies the Mercury of the philosophers, and has dominion in the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, and the animal kingdom. Backstrom, the wisdom of the world, is hidden in Chiram and its use. Hermes signifies a serpent, and the serpent used to be an emblem of knowledge or wisdom. Burckhardt, the three parts of wisdom correspond to the three great divisions of the universe, namely, the spiritual, psychic and corporeal realms, whose symbols are heaven, air and earth. Shoemaker, the usual explanation of Trismegistus is that Hermes was the greatest philosopher, the greatest priest, and the greatest king. Trithemius, our philosophy is celestial, not worldly, in order that we may faithfully behold, by means of a direct intuition of the mind through faith and knowledge, that principle which we call God. Trithemius, study generates knowledge, knowledge prepares love, love, similarity, similarity, communion, communion, virtue, virtue, dignity, dignity, power, and power performs the miracle. Newton, inferior and superior, fixed and volatile, sulfur and quicksilver have a similar nature and are one thing, like man and wife. For they differ from one another only by degree of digestion and maturity. Sulfur is mature quicksilver, and quicksilver is immature sulfur, and on account of this affinity they unite like male and female, and they act on each other, and through that action they are mutually transmuted into each other, and procreate a more noble offspring to accomplish the miracles of this one thing. And just as all things were created from one chaos by the design of one God, so in our art all things are born from this one thing which is our chaos, by the design of the artificer and the skillful adaptation of things. And the generation of this is similar to the human, truly from a father and mother. Blavatsky, the mysterious thing, is the universal, magical agent, the astral light, which in the correlations of its forces furnishes the alkahest, the philosopher's stone, and the elixir of life. Hermetic philosophy names it Azov, the soul of the world, the celestial virgin, the great Magnus, etc. It appears to be that which gives organization, the maze of force correlations, and form, i.e. the perfect geometry of snowflakes. Sherwood Taylor, the operation of the sun, was carried out by a spirit, universal, the source of all things, having the power of perfecting them. Its virtue is integral, 6a, i.e. having the power to convert the diverse into a single substance, if it be turned into earth, i.e. solidified. This conveyed that the stone was to be a solidified pneuma. Pneuma was the link between earth and heaven, having the virtue of the celestial and subterranean regions, the power of the whole cosmos from the fixed stars to the center of the earth. It overcomes every nature and penetrates every solid. It is the source of the whole world, and so it can be the means of changing things in a wonderful way. The three parts of the philosophy of the whole world are presumably of the celestial, terrestrial, and subterranean regions. Shah, the table is the same as the Sufi dictum. Man is the microcosm, creation the macrocosm, the unity. All comes from one. By the joining of the power of contemplation all can be attained. This essence must be separated from the body first, then combined with the body. This is the work. Start with yourself, end with all. Before man, beyond man, transformation. Hermes said the secret of everything and the life of everything is water. This water becomes in wheat, ferment, in the vine, wine, in the olive oil. The beginning of the child is from water. Regarding this spiritual water and the sanctified and thirsty earth, Hermes the Great, crowned with the glorious wisdom and the sublime sciences, said, 1. Truth it is, indubitable, certain and correct, 2. That the high is from the low and the low is from the high. They bring about wonders through the one, just as things are produced from that one essence by a single preparation. Later by his statement, 4. Its father is the sun and its mother the moon, he meant their male and their female. They are the two birds which are linked together in the pictures given regarding the beginning of the operation, and from them the spiritual tinctures are produced. And similarly they are at the end of the operation. Later in his statement, 7, the subtle is more honorable than the gross, he means by the subtle the divine spiritual water, and by the gross the earthly body. As for his later statement, (8), with gentleness and wisdom it will ascend from the earth to the sky, and will take fire from the higher lights, he means by this the distillation and the raising of the water into the air. As for his later statement, (8a), it will descend to the earth, containing the strength of the high and the low, he means by this the breathing in, istinshak, of the air, and the taking of the spirit from it, and its subsequent elevation to the highest degree of heat, and it is the fire, and the low is the body, and its content of the controlling earthly power which imparts the colors. For there lie in it those higher powers, as well as the earthly powers which were submerged in it. The natural operation and decay causes it to be manifest, and hence the strength of the earth, and of the air, and of the higher fire passed into it. Later he said, (9), it will overcome the high and the low because in it is found the light of lights, and consequently the darkness will flee from it. See Stapleton et al. p. 74, 81.